I'll probably use it as my pick, but I'll mention it anyway. So I've been studying French, like passively, like semi-actively, for my
It's
streak
like
on.
you've worked on it every day for a year. That's
Yeah,
not very passive.
yeah. It's just like recently with Duolingo. So this kind of plays into the story. Like recently with Duolingo, I feel like it's super repetitive, and I needed like a next thing, something
Mm.
more hands-on and like actionable. But I've my streak on Duolingo is like 305 or 10 days now, which is really awesome. But I say passively because at a lot of those days recently, I've only done one lesson just to keep the streak. So it's like 10 minutes a day. But my mother-in-law or my in-laws got me for Christmas a paid subscription to Babbel. And so Babbel has a similar app where they have like you can go through it yourself and you kind of repeat some of the stuff that they say and you listen to a dialogue, etc. But they also have, with that level of subscription, unlimited Zoom classes. So I've actually started 2 out of the last 3 days. I've taken a Zoom class, which are very small, and they're like 3 or 4 people. And so you go through kind of like a worksheet with an instructor, and they speak in French the entire time, unless they need to do English, which is like 5% of the time. Anyway, so that's been like super, super helpful. And I've been really excited about that. So my goal is to do like 4 or 5 of those a week in preparation
That's
for,
awesome.
I don't know if I've talked about this, but we're going to Montreal for my birthday in
Are
February.
you?
Mhm.
Fun.
Ooh, fun.
Is
Yeah.
it just a fun trip or are you coupling it with work?
Just fun, just for my birthday. And
Oh.
so they speak like French and English in Montreal.
Mhm.
And my nephew is going to go with us, my middle nephew, because he's
Nice.
never flown or been out of the country. And he's also taking French in school. So this will be a cool experience for him too.
That's awesome.
I'm really excited about it.
What have you guys planned an agenda yet?
Not specifically, but I do know that they have like, I don't know, it's not like bar exclusively for drinking, I don't think. So hopefully he can come. But they have a bar where you can drink out of like ice cup, like it's an ice bar. So the cups are made of ice, and you can drink from the ice cup, which is kind of wild.
How do you hold
that's
it?
cool.
Gloves, maybe? I don't actually know the answer to that question. So I assume they'll have best practices lined up when we get there.
Does Canada have different drinking regulations? Because I know like Europe, you only have to be 16.
I think so. And it's only 12, so unless we got him a fake ID. Yeah, he's probably still a little too
One
far
of
away
those
for that.
uncles.
Yeah, I don't want to be that uncle too quickly. One day.
No, which nephew is like into YouTube?
Oh, this is the one who
Okay.
brags to his friends about having an uncle who's a YouTuber.
Famous.
Yeah.
Oh my that's so funny.
Yeah, so I went to one of his track meets, and like I just went up to him before he was running, and he like got his friend. He was like, This is the uncle I was telling you about." And the kid was like, "How many subscribers do you have on YouTube?" It was funny.
So big. NBD.
Oh.
It was cute. People, if we have anybody hanging out with us on the stream, welcome. Let us know. I always love the like check-ins from where people are from. It's always cool to see like people saying they're joining from different places around the world. So if you're with us, let us know where you're joining in from. And if you two are ready, we can go ahead and get started.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Make sure I have my like opening podcast pitch voice ready.
Do you have the jingle bumper?
Oh, I've been playing it through. Yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
Through this thing, but I have to remember to stop it. Right, isn't it on here? Under compressed. Okay. All right, I'll be ready for it. Izzy, I forgot to ask one last thing. How do you pronounce your last name? Calabig?
Oh, yeah, just Calabig. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Got it. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web development and design. In this episode, we're going to talk all about the impact of networking and community with Izzy Calabig.
In design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compress.
What's up, everyone? My name is James Q. Quick, and I am a full-time technical content creator.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton, and I am the Director of Design at Zeal.
And our guest today, I think originally I found you through TikTok, which is like a fun space to be in. And I love other creators' content. And then reached out, I think maybe on Twitter or maybe on TikTok. I can't remember, to see if you'd be interested. But super excited to have Izzy on to talk to us today about networking and community. And I'm sure we'll get into content creation and TikTok and that sort of stuff too. But welcome to the show. Do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm Izzy, and I'm a web developer, and my main 9 to 5 kind of job is a marketing associate at Dreambox, and I'm also pretty active on TikTok and Twitter. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that we met. So yeah.
Love it. What's your background in web development? Like when and how did you get started?
Yeah, so as I said, so I kind of have like a marketing background, right? And so it all started with email development, actually. So my job before Box, I worked at a mental health clinic, and we were needing to update our emails, and the formatting was just horrible. And so I actually had to learn a little bit of like HTML to kind of fix it. And that was just kind of the start of it. And then my manager at the time, he was like, "Hey, like you're pretty good at this. You should like look into web development." And that's just kind of where it like took off. And so it's been fun ever since that moment. I thank him a lot for that. He was very encouraging.
What was just curious, what was like the timeline of that? Like how was that in the last couple of years?
Oh, yeah. So that happened, man, that probably just last year or the year before, now
Okay.
that it's 2023. So I started 2021. That's kind of when I started my web development journey. Oh, yeah.
Cool. And what kind of sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. I was just going to say, I think email is one of the best places to get started, and it doesn't seem like an obvious place, but part of that is because of the limitations, and it's probably the closest to old school HTML, CSS as possible.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think it's something that not a lot of people realize that there's actually a need for it. Because in marketing, email is a classic way to like get to your audience. And so I don't know, I feel like a lot of people, they kind of forget that it takes a little bit of HTML for a solid email to like look.
Yeah, well, not even just solid HTML, but like you can't use Flexbox, you can't use Grid. You're so much more
Yeah.
limited in what tags and things
Mhm.
that you have available.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. And so that was just kind of where things took off from there. I was like, oh, I can learn HTML. What else is there to learn? So, yeah.
That reminds me of like so many people got their start with MySpace, which I didn't. I didn't know this is the thing, but so many people I think were like customizing their pages on MySpace with HTML and CSS. I hear that like over and over again. So starting with email, I feel like is another good example.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you use any certain services to make the emails better? Like I've used Litmus a lot.
Yeah, actually, our at my current job, that's kind of what we use to just make sure that the formatting's all right. It looks good across like all devices, stuff like yeah, I think that's the main one that we use as of now.
So for anybody listening, Litmus is a great service. You can set up an email and then it will render out what that looks like in Outlook and Gmail and Hotmail and Yahoo and all these different services so that you can make sure that it looks consistent and looks great across the board.
I feel like I don't fit in. Like I know about the idea of HTML emails being a big pain, but I've never like, actually experienced it. So it's not something that I have experience with. But I've heard from other people, and especially Amy, how difficult it is, especially without having access to Flexbox and Grid and stuff. And are there tools that you can like that you can use Flexbox and Grid, and then it converts it down to the CSS that it accepts that like help you take advantage of some of the newer features?
One of I can answer it. One of my favorite services is NJML, and you're actually writing React, and then it will render those things for you. So it's the easiest way that I've found if you're going to customize stuff. A lot of the popular services like MailChimp will handle all that stuff for you, and you're just using a WYSIWYG editor. You do compromise size though, in terms of, because I mean, they're just going to sometimes throw extra tags and things like that you might not necessarily need if you hand code it. So, and
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, with like email platforms, I feel like a lot of the modules are like easy to kind of edit. And so that's kind of where I might have to write some like CSS kind of stuff. But yeah, the WYSIWYG like editor for sure.
mhm. And what's fun about MJML is it's actually owned by one of our previous sponsors, which is Pathwire. So they were one of our founding sponsors. But yeah, they have a great service, and the MJML stuff is all open source.
Oh, cool. Mhm.
Mhm.
I remember Amy. I think you kind of told it this way of you were talking to them about sponsorships and then realized they were the ones behind MJML,
Mhm.
something that you had already used, and that got you really excited about being able to work with them.
Yeah, that's right. And their services, they have MJML support built into it,
Mm.
which is pretty great. Yeah. But that's the first one that comes to mind in terms of something that writes like good email code for you.
Mhm.
Because some of it's hard too when you start getting into responsiveness and you're having to write stuff in tables and you don't have the same CSS support that you would normally get. And what's surprising, I don't know if it's changed, but when I was writing a lot of HTML emails, the ones that I had the most trouble with were Gmail and Outlook. I don't know if you've had a different experience or not.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like for me, a lot of what we use are templated, which is really nice because it goes in line with like our like brand guidelines and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of things that need to be like edited, at least from my end. But yeah, I've had some issues with Outlook. Like there are just some times that Outlook's just tricky. I don't know what it is about Outlook, but I have mixed feelings about it.
Good. I love a hot take.
One thing we should do is mention that the episode is sponsored by daily.dev that we haven't talked about yet. And Izzy, I don't know if you use this, but daily.dev is mainly a Chrome extension that I use in Chrome. And so what happens is every time I open a new tab, it shows me a curated feed of relevant articles in tech. And this is actually recently I've gotten tons of inspiration for YouTube videos from the articles that I see. So you see a lot of people posting about their new products on Product Hunt or like tips and tricks or tutorials or whatever it is. And you can actually kind of curate that list based on your interest. And so anyway, so Amy and I have been big fans of daily.dev for months, a year at least, or maybe longer, of just having access to tons of content at any time. So shout out to daily.dev and thank you to daily.dev.sponsoring. Is that something,
Mhm.
have you used their Chrome extension, Izzy?
Haven't, but I'm definitely gonna use that. That sounds amazing.
Sold. Another convert. We've got a comment in
Convinced
the
me.
yeah. Yes. We got a comment in the chat from Axolo who really cool is a Spanish speaker, and Amy had done some of the Advent of JavaScript challenges and did solution videos to those in Spanish, which I haven't spent as much
What?
time listening as I would like. But it was kind of a cool
Whoa,
way
that's
for me
cool.
to hear like more Spanish, but in a relevant way based
That's
on content that
awesome.
we created. So yeah, super cool.
I was gonna say, if you'll DM me, we'll highlight that stuff.
Highlight
Exolodev. Yeah, if you'll DM me, then I'll highlight his videos.
like share it in
Whatever.
with the newsletter or whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good idea. Yeah, so thanks for the support and going through that and then posting the content. Um, thinking maybe like kind of switching into the networking and community. Any place in particular that you want to start with, Izzy? Like, why are those two things something that are important to you? What have they meant for you in your career? And maybe what do some of those things look like it at different phases of your career, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so basically after working at the mental health clinic, I just kind of felt stuck in my career and I didn't really like know who to go to, where to go. I kind of started off with LinkedIn, like sprucing it up a bit, updating things as, the usual. But um I don't know, it was really hard for me to connect with people there. Some of the messages that I've sent people to just like network with, like they weren't really getting a lot of like engagement. And so I heard that Twitter was kind of like the new LinkedIn. And so I hopped on Twitter, and that was, oh, tech Twitter is amazing. I've met so many cool people. I've made like so many great connections, like opportunities to just like collaborate with people, support people in their content too, and their web development journey. And I kept seeing the hashtag 100 devs everywhere, and I was like, what is 100 devs? And then that was when I met one of my good friends, Alara. She's in 100 devs. And she told me, like, you got to check out 100 devs. Like, this guy named Leon, he does like amazing videos, does it for free. He teaches people web development and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, like, well, I'll check it out. And then after, I think it was like his first or second class, he highlighted that the whole point of his like 100 devs like classes and courses is to help people get a job. And so he covered like how to use LinkedIn, how to network on Twitter, how to set up coffee chats. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do all of that and I will get like a job in tech. Like this is I have all the steps. This is the bull right here. I'm following it step by step. And so yeah, like I did exactly what he said, to just like engage with people's like content, like engage with people on LinkedIn, on Twitter. And so those two platforms that helped me land a job at Dreambox. And so that was just amazing to just see how he's right. Like it's just crazy how like networking can really bring so many opportunities, and not a lot of people like really know where to go, how to start. And so I cannot thank Leon enough for just covering that, because you wouldn't think that that would be the way to go to find like a job sometimes. So yeah.
It's something that I talk a lot about, like all the things that you said and the stuff that Leon does for 100 devs is stuff that I'm super passionate about. And actually
Mm.
a lot of what you talked about, I will actually be talking about in 2 weeks at that conference, which is the name of a conference, which sounds confusing, but
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. I saw your tweet about that. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So you actually mentioned you felt stuck in your career, and that's actually the title of my keynote. And I was thinking through like things to call out, and a lot of my perspective
Mm.
is you have to take control of your career, because a lot of people feel like they're kind of at the mercy of employers, and they don't do the things that you
Yeah.
just talked about of being proactive and reaching out to people, or they do that and they get defeated and they stop. And it's one of the things that
Right.
you have to just fully believe in the process, I guess, and understand that like it's not going to happen overnight, but these things have paid off for people over and over and over and over and over and over again. And so it works. You just have to like be fully invested into it. And I'm a huge fan of, for all the reasons that you just said, of not only having the technical content that he's able to help get people training for, but also helping people understand the impact of these other pieces and how, like, really those are the difference makers in people getting jobs versus not. Because if you're just if
It's
you just
true.
gone through
Yeah.
the same boot camp and you don't have a connection and you haven't networked, like you're not really going to find the same opportunities as people that have done all the things that you have.
Yeah, it's really true. And it's interesting because my dad, he said the same exact thing. My dad, he's a retired software engineer and he worked for like Microsoft and Okta for like decades. And he said that the biggest thing was like networking, and
Mhm.
how for him it's all about like reputation. And it's crazy how small the tech world is. Like everybody kind of knows everybody in some way. Like you'll talk to like, oh yeah, like I know so and so worked at Google or whatever. And so like for him, he said that a lot of people were able to like vouch for him when he was on the job hunt. So it was like easy for him to like give himself those opportunities, because like he just networked and like asked people for help. for like referrals, stuff like that. And so it's true. It really does like make a huge difference. Like you can learn all the hard skills and such, but it's really like the people who can vouch for you that can make the difference in your career.
I've almost started to think like, actually, I wouldn't even say almost. I'm almost definitively on the side of soft skills and networking are more important than the technical part. I think like if you have a serious gap in technical knowledge, that will obviously hold you back. But if you're on par with kind of the average tech person, but your soft skills and your networking and recommendations and all those things, if that is kind of beyond the other candidates that you're maybe competing with, I think you're, in my mind, easily going to be the person that gets the job. And you mentioned like small community. So I think you said that your dad worked at Microsoft. I worked at Microsoft, and you mentioned that he worked at Okta. My wife works at Okta, and I worked at Auth0 before acquisition. So there's
No way.
always
Yeah.
these like, you're right. It's just the tech ecosystem is not that big, and having people be aware of who you are, can give recommendations for what you're capable of doing, makes all the difference. It makes such a big difference.
I saw a tweet thread the other day where this guy was saying that he had interviewed someone and he was like, I'm a 10x developer. And so he was like, so how would you handle this problem? Oh, I just rewrite it. He was like, well, like, what if you have to integrate this API? We don't need it. I'd rewrite it. It's like, what if you would, like, what other people would you bring in? I'm a 10x developer. I don't need help. Like,
Wait,
I
was
do
that?
my own thing.
Wow.
I
Did they
don't
actually
know
reference the
how
next?
legit it was, but I read the entire thread and I was like, I can't believe this guy is that arrogant. And so like at the end, the guy was like, I need to know what notes you wrote about me. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna make a note that you said that.
Oh
But
my.
it
Oh
kind of
goodness.
the moral of the story though is you can be a 10x developer, but to your point, if you don't have the soft skills, if you're not willing to work with other people, like that's a huge problem. And even though you say I'm in tech and I work with computers, at the end of the day, you're still working with humans. And so there's a lot to be
Yeah.
said for those soft skills.
Was there, did you like, maybe kind of switching a little bit, which I think it's all related and to a certain point, but thinking about like content creation, was that something that I think you had an interest in or had done before tech? So what was your background in like getting started with content creation in general?
Yeah. So I guess I had a little side hustle of like videography photography on the side. And so I had like Instagram, like this was like way back in like 2019, 2020 maybe. And so this was all like pre-COVID. And I was very familiar with content creation just because I was kind of showcasing like my portfolio through like my social media channels at the time. And then I applied all that knowledge to like my marketing career at the mental health clinic. And then when I got plugged into tech Twitter, I saw a lot of people like building in public and like sharing like what they're learning. I was like, oh, like that's really cool. And like that's a really great way too to hold yourself accountable, right? And so I kind of just like did it for my own, I guess, knowledge. Because sometimes like if you learn something new and you're able to like teach it, then that shows that like you actually understood like what you're like doing. And I always loved watching people's videos or reading their blogs about projects and stuff, and just hear them get super excited about it or kind of show off like their little twists and turns with all their like code that's like really cool and pretty looking. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can like do something like that. And then um one of my I can't remember who it was, but I connected with a colleague and he said that content creation actually helped stand out with various recruiters, because I guess it kind of showed that they were also active like within the dev community too, because it was in like the DevRel space. And that was something that I also had interest in pursuing too. And so yeah, I just started getting like really serious about like content creation and blogging, like YouTube videos and such. So that's kind of my 2023 like goal, is to kind of keep going with that. It's just fun. It's just fun to kind of share with people what we learn and hope that it makes sense. Get feedback too, and just keep learning. So yeah.
That's so good. I don't know if you know this, but like one of my personal philosophies, and then the name of the Discord community that I started, is learn, build, teach, and it's a cycle of I spend a lot of time learning. Like as developers in tech, like things change so often, so you spend a lot of time learning, and then you use what you learn to then build stuff, and then teach other people how to do it too, because it helps them learn, it helps the community, and then it also helps you like either reinforce what you thought you knew, or like make you realize that you didn't know the thing as much as you thought you did, and that's huge. And then the visibility with content creation, I think is easily a leg up on other candidates. Like we've talked about this before. If there was one career hack, I would just recommend creating content. And you don't have to have the aspirations of being a content creator full time per se or anything like that, but having your stuff out there is proof for your technical knowledge. If you write a blog post
Yeah.
or create a video, you're able to portray these skills that otherwise are just words on a piece of paper on a resume. So I think content and building your brand is one of the biggest hacks that people can have in their career. And there's a controversial topic that I'm kind of curious to get other people's take on, and I'll give you like my take first, which is maybe the controversial take, maybe. But there's a lot of talk on like tech Twitter about the idea of looking for passionate candidates, and the word passion. Do you have to have passion to be successful in a job, et cetera? And I think the pushback on that is mostly revolving around employers advertising that they're looking for passionate candidates, and that behind the scenes translating to, we're looking for people that want to work 60 to 80 hours a week. In my interpretation, like obviously that's not an expectation that I think is good. I'm also like, first and foremost is work-life balance for me. But the other fact of this is like, for me, people that are passionate about what they're doing are going to be better employees. They're going to be more fulfilled for themselves because it's stuff they enjoy doing. And me having done like outside work things because of stuff that I'm passionate about, not that it was required, but then I get to take those learnings and get better at my job and the things I do at my job too. So I don't know. Have you like heard about kind of maybe the controversy? Maybe I'm being a little dramatic about it, about the idea of like having passion. And is that a goal of yours to like get paid to do things that you're passionate and excited about?
That's interesting because I don't know how, if this will make sense, but basically I see passion in so many different ways. Like you can have it within like your career, and you can have it outside of your career, in like your family life, with friends, right? And so um I think it is very important to have uh, a certain level of passion when it comes to your career, because I think it will help motivate you, right? And it'll also help kind of push, like keep learning like new things. If you really do enjoy like your job and what you're learning, then it'll just kind of come naturally, I guess. But I think what's so important is that like what you said, that passions should also be outside of work too, because I don't know, like for example, I'm really passionate about the guitar, for an example. Like I've played guitar for like decades, and like it's just such a fun like outlet for me. But like, yeah, I'm very passionate about it, but I don't want to be paid to like play guitar or like be in a band or something like that, because then it kind of takes the fun out of it, and then it won't feel like it'll start to feel like a job than like something that I like really enjoy. And so I don't know, because I feel like at the end of the day, like a job. And so I think like, yeah, like you should have some sort of level of passion for it, but it's also important to have a passion for other things that you just purely enjoy, just for like the sake of it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I always get a little, I don't know, like I'm so half and half about the term passion because like a lot of companies, yeah, they take it as like, well, that means that like you'll be able to like work 40 hours, like what you said. So yeah, work-life balance. Oh my goodness, take mental health. Yeah.
I'm going to highlight a comment in the chat. This is from Jason Eric Davis, and he said, passion is objective. Do we really want to add more subjective criteria? And at least that's kind of where my opinion lands as well, because you can have somebody that's really
Yeah.
passionate about what they're doing, and they're the hardest people to work with because they're determined that their way is
Yeah.
the right way, and they're not willing to change, and you can't get them to budge, and they're going to impress and enforce their opinions on everybody else. They're very passionate, but it's kind of this negative passion that's going to be toxic and bring the entire team down. But on the other hand, if you have somebody that's just excited to learn, excited to be there, and like they're going to make the project better because they're trying to push everything forward. So there's that side of it. There's also the side of, is what you're building, are you passionate about that? Like, does it serve a greater purpose? Do you believe in what you're building? Or are you just there to get a paycheck? So it's hard when somebody says on a job description, they need to be passionate. Well, to to Jason's point, like,
What does that
define
mean?
that. What
Yeah.
are you passionate about?
Yeah. And I guess like in an interview, I think the difference for me is like if I'm talking to someone, I can tell whether or not they're excited about what we're talking about. And that would make a big difference, right? Like showing that energy, showing that interest in what we're talking about and what the job would be and what the requirements
Yeah.
are. I don't think it's something that would be a checkbox on in an interview. I think it'd be more of a feel for a person and their interest. But really good points on both sides about there being different representations of passion and how that shows up. And Amy, the situation that you mentioned of like passion translating to overbearingness then becomes like the mix of like, okay, they're excited, that's good. But now the balance of, and I feel like we need a better word for soft skills because it doesn't imply the urgency that soft skills like play in hiring someone. But if you start to take passion and it takes away from the ability to be a team player, the ability to learn and understand and listen for other people's opinions, then yeah, that would definitely be detrimental to the team. So the balance of all these things is definitely huge.
Yeah. So what's interesting is at Zeal, we've partnered with Learn Academy to have a software residency program. And with that, we serve as the technical mentors in that relationship, and Learn serves as the soft skills mentor. But the way that we call it is professional skills, which is kind of a neat differentiation there.
Yeah.
I also wanted to
I like
highlight,
that.
yeah,
Same.
I also wanted to highlight Fatima's comment. They said, I think curiosity is more important than passion, which is kind of an interesting and I think a valid hot take.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that too.
I do too. And I think there'd be some mix of those two things together, right? Like I would say the curiosity comes from excitement, which could be related to passion, but I think that does touch on
Mhm.
more of the balance maybe that we were getting to of like being less opinionated and forceful with passion and using it more as an excitement to learn out of curiosity. So I like that tweak on that too.
Yeah.
I'll share this resource. I don't know if you guys have heard of the book Grit. It's by Angela Ducksworth, I think is her last name. But she has, what's interesting, like done tons and tons of research on grit. Like what gives people grit? What is grit exactly? And how do you really develop a passion in life? And the research that she found was incredibly interesting because you might have like someone like me that I knew from when I was 10 that I wanted to do something related to art. But not everybody has that. They go through college and they're still struggling to figure out what their thing is going to be in life. And for a lot of people that she interviewed, it came through the actual doing of something before they got excited about it. Or even in some cases, a job that seems really ho hum, like not exciting, but in that, like people got excited about the work they were doing as they got better at it. And so I think for anybody that's, maybe starting out in web development saying, well, I'm not really passionate about this right now, but it just like it might serve an end goal or a purpose. You may have passion later on in life, the better and the more that you put into something. So it's a great resource. She was actually interviewed on, I'm trying to remember what podcast. I'll have to go back and find that. Maybe we can include it in the show notes. If you don't want to like commit to reading the book, but there's a few resources where she's done interviews, and it's very fascinating.
That's so true. I feel like that's exactly what happened with me, was when I just kind of dipped my toes a little bit in like HTML. And then after that, that was just kind of where it just sparked a lot of curiosity, creativity, and passion for it. And I think that's something that I've noticed with at least some of the people that I acted with online who like want to get into web development, but they're very like scared to try it out. And I keep telling them, just see, like, you never know, like, you just try it out. And if you hate it, like, it's not a big deal. Cause I don't know, there's so many resources out there where they have like free like coding challenges you can look up, like free resources and stuff. So I just tell people, just, you never know if you're good. So yeah.
Well, and I think it's hard sometimes to be passionate about something that you're just learning because you're frustrated that
Mhm.
you can't get it right and you feel like you're banging
Yeah,
your head
that's
against
so
the
true.
wall. So it's hard for somebody that's
Yeah.
just starting out to be like, I'm passionate about it and I hate the process. Like they're it's very difficult. So you almost have to get over that bell curve of learning before you decide whether you really love it or not.
Yeah. Hmm.
Learning journey is definitely a fun one. I think there's like hopefully there's like moments in that process that make it worthwhile. Like once you actually overcome something, then you're like, okay, that was fun. It was a lot of work to get here, but that part
Mhm.
was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's also like maybe relevant to the conversation too, Izzy, based on like you've got a different background than a lot of developers have. And I think the more I talk to different people, the more I realize that like all developers have different backgrounds and we all have like interests and things that are not just programming, which is great and I think essential based on exactly what you said earlier of like having those hobbies and excitements and passions and things outside of work to maintain that work life balance. But one of the things that is becoming more apparent for people that really excites me is there's a lot more to programming than just 9 to 5 writing code. And an example of this is like we've kind of talked about this on the podcast is the growth of opportunities like developer advocacy. That when I started as a technical evangelist, that wasn't a very common thing in 2013. Now you see more and more people that are doing this, and you see more and more people that are tying in their artistic, creative passions and excitements and skill sets into content creation and combining those things into a career like I get to do of marrying up the content creation aspect of what I enjoy with technical stuff that I also really enjoy. So that's I think an exciting thing is we're becoming more aware of opportunities to marry up our different interests and kind of create maybe jobs that are just like tailored towards us and get the best of both worlds. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So basically, like with my marketing background, um, I so like I said earlier, like when I felt stuck, and I got active like on Twitter and LinkedIn, um, so there was someone that I connected with, and he offered to like be a dev like mentor like for me because he said that he had the same like background as me. Like he started off in like marketing, and then now he's like a front end like engineer. And so I like asked him like, okay, yeah, like I'll take you up on like coffee chats. Like really appreciate your time. And he told me that like not a lot of people realize that in marketing like it's such an easy like step up to get into web development. And because he said to keep brushing up on like my email kind of experience, and then on top of that, like if I have like campaign experience, and that's like a whole package right there. Like not only is like Izzy able to like help build like an email, but she knows how to like execute it, plan it out, like strategize like how you want the content and like the campaign to run. And so that was exactly like what I did. And like it's crazy to see like just connecting with so many different people on Twitter, to like how everyone like starts out. Like there's people in customer service who are now like engineers. um yeah, and so it's great to just see that the quote unquote everyday Joe is able to learn this stuff. It's not, it's not, I obviously it's hard. It takes a lot of like patience with yourself, and the learning's always up and down when it comes to development. But, it's doable. It's doable.
One thing that, no, I think, I don't know. So at Zeal, we are a consultancy. And part of being a consultant versus just actually sitting down and coding and doing exactly what our client asks is processing that request, kind of what you're talking about with marketing and being able to think through that business use case to say, is that really the best thing? So you can always use those past experiences. And even if you're sitting there thinking, well, like say I'm a vet, what does that have to do with translating that into tech? Well, there's plenty of vet tech companies. That's a whole industry and it's huge. And you know better how to solve those problems programmatically than any other developer that has absolutely no experience in that particular industry. So everything is relatable.
Yeah, that's true. Because I don't know, I was like thinking, so in my current role, so I'm in marketing operations. So I kind of manage a lot of like the back end things to help execute the campaigns and whatnot. And so I'm kind of in my I kind of touch with so many different aspects like of marketing, and it's cool to see how everything is connected. And on top of that, I'm also able to get a better understanding of like how our website is maintained, how all of our campaigns end up through like certain languages like on our website. So it's nice to know that the experience that you have and that you're like currently doing, like it is like all connected, able to use those skills and apply it to your job. And so yeah, I don't know, I feel like people should embrace that, like even if they might feel stuck right now in a role that they're not like passionate about. But just be aware that the stuff that you are experiencing, it'll help you out in the long run. You just have to connect the dots. So
There's also like the ability as you're doing a job and maybe you feel stuck or you just don't feel fulfilled or you're not enjoying every aspect of it. One of the things that I recommend people to do is just look at like what are the times that you are the happiest? Like probably your entire
ooh,
job you're not frustrated with.
yeah.
So you have the ability to look at like, okay, when I do this type of activity, when I get to sit down and write code, or when I get to be in meetings that are planning architecture, or when I get to have meetings that are relevant to understanding the business and marketing, like whatever those niches are within your job, you can like open and start the conversation to say like, hey manager, I've noticed I really enjoy doing this more than this. Is there a way that I can shift a little bit to focus more on that thing versus this other thing? Can you help me get some of this stuff that I don't enjoy as much off of my plate so that I have the ability to do more of what I enjoy? Because I think a lot of times, myself included, we kind of give the feedback of like, if you're not happy, go and find a new job, and it's not that easy. But even within a job, I think the first step is just starting like the realization process, like looking inwardly of what you enjoy and what you don't, but then also communicating that. Because I think unless you have a really shitty manager, like people want you to be happy. It's in their best interest for you to be happy because otherwise you'll just
Yeah.
leave.
Mhm.
So if you start to communicate like these are the things that I'm enjoying and would rather do versus not do, maybe you start to make some progress there. And I think if managers are able to help you do that, they're earning your trust, which makes you a little bit more open to sticking around longer, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I feel people should look within their company first, because I feel like it's most likely you'll find opportunity much quicker, I guess, compared to going through the whole like process of applying to different places. Because I remember at my old job at the mental health clinic, I told my manager at the time like, hey, I really want to keep doing like meals, and like I want to move on to like learn how to maintain like the website. And he gave me that opportunity. He like trained me and was able to like handle that. Uh, uh and like even at my current company now, like they know like about my interest in like web development and stuff, and like emails and landing pages, and they give me tasks because like they know that's also something that I'm like passionate about. And so yeah, like you never know, and I want people to remember that like even in their own company there might be opportunities there. Like don't neglect that. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. This is a little selfishly for me personally, but also I think beneficial for people that maybe haven't seen some of your content. And I'm thinking more specifically around TikTok. Is there for people that haven't seen it? Is there like a particular focus that you like think you have for your content? Is it wanting to teach people technical things? Is it wanting to do some of the humor aspect of TikTok? Like what's kind of the style of your video for people that haven't seen it before? And then do you have any like are there any I don't know how specific, but any general goals of being active on TikTok or any thoughts on like strategy for TikTok for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, TikTok right now, it's just kind of for fun. I feel like I use more Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube as my more like serious, I guess, kind of content when it comes to like teaching, or even like my Hashnode blogs. That's kind of where I have a lot like technical kind of stuff. But for TikTok lately, it's just been a lot about just like my daily life and how it's not always pretty. It's really like realistic. Like there are times where I get stuck on a code war challenge and I record that and I show like, okay, here's my solution after like an hour I was struggling with it or whatever. Or sometimes I have like videos of me like studying at a coffee shop because sometimes like I just need a change of scenery, even though remote work is great. Like I'm very blessed to like have a job that is flexible that way. But there are times where I just don't want to be home and I'd rather study elsewhere. So yeah, it's more of just right now is more just a little like lifestyle snippet. And I also like to record videos of just encouraging like words because there are times where I feel like a lot of folks that are trying to break into tech they get easily discouraged, which I totally understand. Like I was in the same place too, but I think what's important is to stay consistent and also know that there's people out there who get it. Like I was in that boat like last year, and so yeah, I just hope that the content that I put out there on TikTok relatable and just reminds people that like it life has its ups and downs, especially when it comes to breaking into tech. So yeah.
I love that you show the process because I think a lot of people forget that even seniors use Google all the time.
Right, yeah.
Or Chat GPT.
Yeah. Yeah. Or Copilot, GitHub Copilot all day.
That
Yeah, and I
is
think it's also weird on TikTok is like a lot of people they kind of showcase like the luxurious life or whatever,
mhm.
but it's not always so luxurious. So yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna add. It's so easy to look at people's Instagram photos and tweets and TikToks and stuff and just assume that everything is perfect, which I think contributes to imposter syndrome, which is already difficult enough. And it is really amazing to see people be transparent and vulnerable to say like this is real life because we all have on a daily basis we have things that we struggle with. We have family troubles or like well, I don't know whatever they are in the world. Like we're all just people and we all have lives outside of the content that we create and the life that we portray. So I've definitely tried to be intentional with some of my content of just being honest about where I am. But I think that's still something that I am kind of figuring out. The relatability I think is probably I think it's just top of mind for me. Like I think that's one of the things that allowing people to feel a connection to you I think is very valuable for both people. I think it
Yeah,
like earns trust, but
For
also
sure.
just helps that imposter syndrome help people feel like they're part of something because they have something to relate to.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that also helps create community too
Mhm.
within that platform. Because I feel like I don't know, sometimes there are some videos I come across on TikTok where I just think, wow, why are people so like judgmental or mean or discouraging? And it's sad to see that. And so I'm
Mhm.
glad that like people like you out there, like other people that try to just bring the positivity and community in that platform. So yeah.
for what it's worth, in the notes that you sent us originally, you had mentioned 100 Devs and Zona, who's actually in the chat on YouTube, and I are
Oh,
behind the
no
scenes
way. Hi, Zona.
trying to coordinate to get another podcast episode there. So anyway, that's cool to see, like, the notes that you sent beforehand also align with the community that shows up, like, more specifically for you, right? Like, we've done the podcast a lot, but we see different people come in based on different guests because they're there to learn about their journey or just to support them. And those are the connections where,
Yeah.
in the world of tech, just like any other category, we see the drama, we see the people not being so inclusive and putting down others for their opinions, beliefs, like whatever. But there also is this, like, really, really beautiful side of tech that I feel like is more progressive than a lot of trying to be intentional about all the things that we're talking about, and to see that, like, show up in real life on a live podcast and in the chat and supporting in different ways is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether I know one of the big things through 100 Devs, part of, like, the networking piece that we talked about earlier is the coffee chats. And I actually did one with Julia. I forget her, Morgan. I have to look up her last name, but she's actually in New York City. We did one of these like several months ago. I'll be in New York in a few weeks, and I messaged her to see if she would want to meet up and get coffee and, like, do kind of an open invitation for the community and just see who shows up, which I'm excited about. But I was curious if were there any of the virtual coffee sessions that that really stood out to you, or that maybe led to something, or a good connection or learning or something that came out of those?
Yeah, well, I mean, I gotta give a shout out to Zona. So she was probably one of my first coffee chats when I was like just starting to like get really plugged into the tech community on Twitter. And well, right away we just clicked. Like I immediately saw her as someone that I could call like a good friend. And we talked a lot about just our like developer journey and how, you know, there's ups and downs when it comes to that. And at the time she was talking about how like she really wanted to create like a community through like on Discord and stuff. And so after that coffee chat, we just like stayed in touch, and I like helped her out. I was like, okay, I will be your accountability buddy. You want to build that community, I will help. I will promote it. I talk about the Zona tribe all the time on Twitter, on my spaces, because it's true. Like I see that community really does make a difference. And you also get to build like friendships and build your network, and people are just there to support you. And so I think, yeah, it was that coffee chat that really changed my view on community, and really I saw immediately how effective like her community is, and it just brings so much positivity and encouragement for people.
It's amazing having that one person or small group of people that you really do have trust in to ask the hard questions. Like, all of us get nervous to ask the questions that we feel like we should already know the answers to, but to have that like a person or a group of people that you trust to be able to have that safe space is a game changer. And Amy and I have kind of joked about this at conferences in the past. I think we've talked about this, of like the awkwardness of going to a conference when you don't know someone versus if you have a person or two people that you know that you can count on to kind of be your people as you navigate conferences and like potentially awkward situations is definitely a big deal. Is it big question for you and Zona, since we're here? I've got the link to the Discord. Is that okay to publicly post that in the chat for people if they're interested?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. If anyone wants to join Zona's Discord server, we kind anime, video games, and development all in one server. So yeah, come hang. We also host events too. We actually just hosted our mini conference workshop around content creation, and that was a lot of fun. And because a lot of people in there want to like start streaming or post more content around their like developer journey too, and so that's why I thought we should totally make a little workshop for people to encourage them to get hopping on. And yeah, we also do watch parties if you like anime. Sometimes we all watch shows together, and that's a lot of fun. So yeah, come through and hang out. And yeah, learn with us the ups and downs of development. So yeah.
That's amazing, especially the different interests that get tied together there. And I
Mhm.
think that's also fun for people that maybe don't already have those interests. Like I don't know anything about anime, but I bet it's one of those things that like if I sat down, especially with a group of people that were excited about it and started to invest time, like actually learn about it, that I could definitely see it be something that I was interested in too. So even like the
Yeah.
exposure level of that to like here's tech, but also here's these other things that like could be fun that you may or may not be interested in and you didn't even know it.
I don't know if this
Yeah. No, yeah.
is considered official anime or not, so you can totally call me out on it. But my kids love Ladybug and Cat Noir. So it's like
Oh
one of my
yeah.
favorite kids TV shows right now.
Yeah. I love
So
that.
good.
Oh
It's
yeah.
so
I mean, in my eyes, I make it count.
good. Good. James, you have an offer in the chat that they'll teach you.
Teach me about, I'm sure about anime. Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet it's one of the, I mean, I don't know. I've realized how much, especially younger, how easy it was to judge things that you didn't know, and not necessarily specifically anime, just like things in general. And one example of that for me was like as an athlete playing sports, like running was a punishment. It was never something
Mm.
that you enjoyed. So I would look at people that would go run for fun and run half marathons. I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? Just being really naive
Oh
of
my
like
god.
some people have different perspectives on this. And now my last half
Yeah.
marathon actually went horribly and it hurt for several days, but like I've become
Oh
one of
no.
those people who like really enjoys running. And there's tons of these different, I never thought I would play golf. Now like I'm obsessed with playing golf. I never thought I'd be interested in X, Y, and Z. And it really usually comes from a place of like prejudgment, unfortunately, and not giving things a
Yeah.
chance. But the more almost of anything that I give a chance and like try out a handful of times, what I usually enjoy it. So I don't know. It's it's fun to have a reason to get exposed to more things in your life.
Yeah. Well, and to come full circle, it goes back to the passion conversation that a
Mm.
lot of times it just comes through the actual doing of it
Yeah.
before you
Yeah.
realize whether you like it or not.
So true. Yeah.
I'll say another aspect of that too, though, is learning about different hobbies, if you will. The more you learn about the hobby, the more complicated the hobby
Mm.
is than you ever thought.
Yeah.
Like running becomes ultimately more complicated because you're paying more attention to clothes and shoes and like gels and water bottles and things that you take with you and all
Mm.
these things. Like woodworking becomes like much more difficult than it seems like it is on YouTube, which is very similar to like watching tutorials on programming. Like, oh, that makes sense, but then doing it yourself is totally different. Anyway,
The
there's like once you go down the rabbit holes, it gets more and more complicated.
I was
in a
gonna
good
say,
way.
have you heard the, I think it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, Kruger.
Ooh.
But it's like this
No.
thing of like if you think of it, the y-axis is confidence and the
Mm.
x-axis is competence. I've used this a couple of times in some talks that I've
Oh.
given. But basically, you start off and you have low confidence and low competence, and then like you're like, oh, I have huge confidence that I'm going to get this, but you have no competence. Like you have no experience to back
Mm.
that up, and they call that
Right.
the peak of Mount Stupid because you have no experience and you have all the confidence in the world. And I think that's like when you first get into it, like, yeah, I can go run around the block. Like, who cares about
Mhm.
shoes? Or you mentioned gels and hydration and nutrition and all that. But then, like, when you get into it, then you realize, oh my goodness, I don't know all this stuff. And
Yeah.
that's when you hit
That is so
the
funny.
valley of despair. And I think, for a
Mm.
lot of people, if you want to relate it back to tech, that's where they get frustrated and
Mhm.
discouraged because you look at it and you're like, oh goodness, I really don't know anything that I'm talking about. I have
Yep.
no confidence and no competence at this point. But then you have at that point, it's a slow slope upward and forward because you gain confidence and you gain that experience that you need in order to grow and eventually get that passion that we're talking about.
100%.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. And
I like
that's
that imagery too. Yeah.
Mhm.
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 And as a mentor, like especially for people that are making career transitions into tech for personal reasons that are relevant to like improving work-life balance and money and all these things, like looking at tech for all the things that it offers. and seeing them struggle a lot during boot camps and stuff. Like that's where I think as a mentor, it's important to like kind of keep your eye on the prize type thing to know that like this may not be something that you end up loving. Hopefully it is. At the end of the day, like it can provide a totally different life for a lot of people in such an amazing way. And being that support system along the way and helping them understand it happens to everyone. Like this sounds really terrible, but my favorite piece of advice that I've ever given to my wife when she was like kind of learning some stuff, it sounds terrible.
It sounds so arrogant, James.
No, it's terrible.
My favorite piece of advice that I've given.
It is. It's amazing, I think. So my piece of advice is you're not special. Like that's what I would tell.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
point is, I think I've talked about this before. Point is like the struggles that you're having are totally acceptable. They're totally understandable because everyone that I've ever seen go through this journey or even try it, everyone goes through the exact same thing. And it's not, you're not special in terms of it's not only happening to you. You're part of this broader community of people that are trying to make changes and trying to learn things. And it's just hard. And that's what it is. But ideally, people that are going through boot camps and stuff, like the end justifies the means if you're able to stick with it. So
yeah. Well, we've talked about the broken comb before several times. And I also want to highlight my ignorance. The first time we talked about it, I thought it was cone, like an ice cream cone. And I was like, oh, broken cone. So this is like a hair comb that you would comb your hair with. But the idea that there's a horizontal there, but there's different verticals that you can go deep on. And so even when you're talking about tech or any of these different things, yeah, you want a basic foundation level, but what piece are you wanting to go deep on? And so remembering that when you're trying to learn that this might not be the piece that you want to go deep on. Like I know nothing about networking. I know my computer connects to the internet and that's about it. But there's other people that's what they specialize in and they go to huge corporations. And I mean, there's tons of money in networking. So it just depends on what piece works for you. And then to go full circle, that everything is relatable. Like you can always tie those things in.
Yeah.
I'm looping all the circles in today.
I love it. Yeah.
we are just over the hour. Do y'all want to move into picks and plugs?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. By the way, just thank you for like the chat and contribution and stuff has picked up in the last like 30 minutes. So thanks everyone for kind of sharing thoughts and contributing there. Yeah. Amy, do you have a pick and plug ready?
I sure do. Hopefully I can share this out. This is
What's the question?
This is a brand new resource that my friend Natalia created. And it's called microfrontend.dev. And I can share a link in it. But this was, I think, a labor of love for her over the holidays. But she shared it with me. It is public, but there is tons of information there. Like as I'm clicking through everything, I can't believe all this stuff that she's written about micro front-end development and different patterns and things like that. So if this is one of the broken comb things that you want to go deep on, I would encourage you to check out that resource because there's some great stuff there. And then for my plug, let's plug the Learn, Build, Teach Discord. So we've talked about that several times during today's show, but it's a great place to connect with people. And James does a great job of putting together a great team of moderators and people that will help drive conversation and help support other people that are learning and going deep on those different verticals.
Love it. I'm doing this to buy time because my pick that I thought I was going to do, I think I did on the last stream on Tuesday. So Izzy, any chance you have a pick and a plug ready?
Yeah, my pick would be it's kind of displayed in the background. Legos. That has been like a recent kind of hobby that I just love building, like Lego. So that's like my little daffodil flower set. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to make. And my plug would just be, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm super active on Twitter. You'll see all my socials on there. Yeah, it's Izzy Visuals, IZAYE _visuals. Yeah, free to follow me if you want a coffee chat. Yeah, just let me know.
Do you watch Lego Masters?
No, I don't actually.
Oh, it's so good. We
I'm
watch
gonna
it as
see.
a family. I think you can see it all on Hulu. There's 3 seasons now, but basically they bring in these people and they have like 12 hours to build something crazy. And it's amazing what some people are able to build in that time. Very
Oh,
cool stuff.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. It's awesome.
I've gotten help from multiple sources of my picks, which I'm going to take this a slightly different direction, but totally plays into what people have said. So I'm wearing a like a fluffy sweater hoodie thing. It's North Face, and I talked about this earlier. Like my wife's only grandmother has gotten me 3 of these over the past Christmases. So that's cool. You can like she got them from Dillard's. I think it's North Face. They're like cool patterns and stuff, and they're comfy and warm. But I'm going to take this a slightly different route. So for Christmas this year, Amy will appreciate this. I found these half zips at none other than Costco, and they, like
Nice.
if you can find something that you're looking for or interested in at Costco, it's always better and cheaper there than anywhere else in the entire world to me. So I found half zips. I'm not wearing them now, and they're fairly standard. But I found half zips that were like $14. They're like golf looking ones. So they have 3 total colors. And I was like, Jess,
You have all 3, don't you?
I was like, Jess, no matter who it is, just I want one of these for Christmas. Like somebody, whether it's you or your mom or my sister, like make sure somebody gets me one of these. And so we did Christmas with my sister before we left. So before Christmas. And my sister got me one. And then we went to Florida and opened presents from, I think it was from her mom, not Omi. I can't remember which was which, but either from her family got the other 2 colors. So I have all 3 colors in these
That's
half sets, which is
amazing.
amazing. Yeah. And I just like, I'm still cheap enough to where like I can appreciate paying for nice things, but when you get nice things and they're way cheaper, it's all the better. So Costco for the win.
I think you're still just trying to work on a Costco sponsorship.
They might as well. Well, actually, it'd be silly for them to sponsor because
You
like,
talk
I'm gonna
about them
talk
almost
anyway.
every single
Right.
episode.
So like they get the sponsorship regardless of. Yeah. Anyway.
I was like, I know we've gotten shirts. I think we've gotten shoes,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
even pants, water bottles twice,
Yeah.
backpack.
Backpack. Yes. So that's my life is Costco. And then for my plug, I will plug the Learn Build Teach community, but I'll do one specific thing. One of the things, and Amy, I appreciate the way you phrased it, was kind of saying we've done a good job of admin and moderator and engagement and that sort of stuff. That's actually like one of the things I think we have the biggest opportunity to improve on is engagement and kind of providing value for people on the server. And the example of that is we have a ton of people on the server, like maybe 4,000, but like relatively speaking, very few that are actively engaged. And I think that's a big part of my responsibility. And then like as an admin group. So that's one of the things that I'm looking to actively improve. So if people are interested in joining the community, it's learnbuildteach.com. If more importantly for me at this point is if people have ideas on ways to engage people, and this is relevant, Izzy, to the stuff that you were talking about with Zona, people have ideas for like things they would like to see in a Discord community, especially if you're already in there, or things that you've seen in other Discord communities that were fun, engaging, gave you a reason to be active and participate. I would love to hear that and kind of put that on an idea board. So if people have ideas, feel free to send them to me. You can send them to me in Discord. You can post it publicly in Discord if you want. You can send me a Twitter, a DM on Twitter, whatever makes the most sense. But if you have ideas, please feel free to send them my way. I'd love it.
How about a toot?
Let's see. What is that for?
Mastodon.
Mastodon. Okay.
Yeah. I haven't jumped on the Mastodon train yet.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah,
So
I
far-
haven't either.
So far, Twitter survives. So
far.
Yeah.
I would say so far so good, but I don't know if that's the appropriate way to phrase that.
Well, I should save this for a pick until I get further along. I started reading a biography about Elon, and it's fascinating.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
I'll
that's
save it for a pick
You
for
should.
another day. Yeah.
I'd love to learn more about that. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, I think that's all we have in this episode. We'll be back next week for another live episode. If you're listening to the podcast version and you enjoyed it, please leave a rating and review to help other people find it too, so we can continue to bring on really amazing guests and then share that with more and more people across the world. In the meantime, that's all we got. That's the official cutoff of the podcast, but we're still live, by the way. I'm always scared that like I'm gonna officially end it and the guest is gonna be like, thank God that's over. That was really terrible, or something like that. Anyway, if you decide to do that, Izzy, wait until I give you the go ahead to say we're
You'll see
officially
a
not live.
pop-up on your screen that says,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Then you can tell us what you really think.
Yep. Just in case, you never know. And it's just so like, it's also one of those things that's unclear. Like when we end this, as I've been a guest, and then I know guests are thinking this, like it's hard to differentiate between like, all right, we're saying bye to everyone. Does the guest leave? Is there more time for us to talk after? Like there's all sorts of uncertainty.
The after show, the after party.
Here's me overthinking everything. Yeah. Cool. I'm gonna send people over.
Yeah, this is the second part of the after show.
No,
The
I'm gonna
rating.
send people over to Chow Codes, which I haven't checked in with Justin Chow in a while. He's gone through a big transition. He was a content creator, built a huge Instagram following. Now is doing like in the last couple of years has gotten his first like full-time jobs as a developer. Really amazing person, does awesome live streams. So I'm gonna raid people who are on Twitch over there to Chow Codes, and then we'll just say bye to everyone else. So thank you everyone for tuning in, listening, commenting, contributing to the conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and we'll catch you later.